Welcome to Pensar. Well, welcome to Pensar Basketball, and I don't have my headphones plugged in, so I thought I was totally off. This is going to be the funniest start ever. Hold on. Okay, that's normal. Okay, we're going to be talking about the Summer League. We're going to be talking about how the Raptors have one of the deepest Summer League rosters in recent memory. The Raptors usually feature like one or two of their draft picks and maybe a whole bunch of flyers, but usually the team's been good for the last, 10, 11 years for the most part. They don't have a lot of competing spots, so typically the best Summer League players typically do not play on the Raptors. If you've seen where the Raptors have usually poached their summer league, where they're poaching their two-way guys, it's usually off of other teams, right? I believe they got Terrence Davis off another team. So summer league is an exhibition, and the Toronto Raptors are going to be coached by Jama Malalela. This is the roster for summer league. It's nice to see some familiar faces for the Raptors: Ochai Abaji, Grady Dick, obviously from last year's roster. We're going to have Javon Freeman Liberty. Is his, Raptor future in doubt a little bit? Yeah, sure. You can have Jacoby Walter. You can have all of the Raptors draft picks this year: Jacoby Walter, Jonathan Mobo, right? Uri Shamshay, which is going to be really fun for me to watch that. And of course, you are going to have their, point guard, their general, Jamal Shed. And I think he's going to be a great table setter for them. You're also going to have one of the most, let's say, one of the most accomplished college players of all time in Drew Timme. And, a lot of people are going to get very excited about the fact that the Raptors have a 7-footer who shoots threes also in, oh gosh, where the heck is he here? Brandon Carlson, right? From Utah, who is a rookie right now. And he's already signed a 2-way contract. 2-way contracts are really, really easy to renege and easy to move away from. So do not expect that, if Brandon Carlson comes out and he really is struggling with speed and whatnot, that the Raptors wouldn't waive him in a second and, take a flyer on somebody else. I don't know what the guarantee dates are for those, but ultimately, it was a way for the Raptors to pay these guys a little bit of money. Again, and then you have a familiar face like DJ Carton, but you also have a whole bunch of players that I'm sure most of you, unless you're really, really deep into college basketball, have probably never heard of. And so what we're going to do today, apart from discussing why I am excited about Summer League, why I am so excited about all of these players and, what they could look like under, again, one of my favorite human beings on earth, Jama Malalela, what I'm excited about, and I'll tell you why. We're also going to take a little bit of a deep dive into the college careers. Not a deep dive, like a superficial 5-second, a superficial 2-minute look at what these players are, who they are, who to watch out for. You can be sure that not all of them are going to get equal opportunity. You can be sure that, the key focus of this team is going to be Grady, Jonathan Mobo, right? Jamal Shed, the guys who have the sort of guaranteed contracts. That's why you push for a guaranteed contract if you're Jamal Shed, because you're pushing for the investment from the club. So the club has to invest in you. They have parked $2 million into you for the next 2 years. And then you have a third year, which is the team option, I believe. So, again, the investment helps first round draft picks. That's why you always want to be a first round draft pick, or you want to be a second round draft pick who has this guaranteed contract. The Raptors have 2 second round draft picks with this guaranteed contract. So these guys are not struggling to make the squad. There's nothing that Jonathan Mobo is going to do over these 4 games, which begin next weekend, that is going to cost him his roster spot. He can come out and miss every single shot, and that's good. You don't want these young kids to feel that level of pressure. But of course, there are going to be guys on this team who are going to be feeling pressure, and let's see which one of them emerges. But it should be one of the deeper squads that I've seen. I remember watching Andrea Bargnani in Summer League. I remember watching Chris Bosh in Summer League. I think he played a few games. I remember DeMar DeRozan. Do I remember DeMar DeRozan Summer League, or did I miss that? I wouldn't have missed that. I love DeMar. We're going to talk about DeMar as well. DeMar going to the Sacramento Kings. And we are also going to talk about Bronny James' debut. So all of that to be said, before we start, one thing. The Toronto Raptors have a rookie. Last night, he had 9,000 followers, and I find this to be crazy. Dude, y'all are the franchise. Y'all are the city that got DeJuan Hernandez to like 20K. I can't imagine somebody getting drafted by the Toronto Raptors and not even having 10,000 followers. Why do I care how many followers Uri Shamshay has? Well, support is good. Support is really good. it's a good feeling when people say welcome to Toronto, good luck, etc. Especially when you are so far away from home, especially when you are 18 years old. I think all of those factors say to me that you should take a minute out of your day, log into Instagram, go if you don't want to follow this guy, don't follow this guy. He doesn't post that much anyway. But go and just drop under his last post, which is, announcing that he's a Toronto Raptor, just say welcome to Toronto, good luck. Just do me that favor. Let's see how much positivity we can create, right? Last videos, we've been on a bit of a heater. I think we've done some good stuff over the last few videos. The card counting at Vegas, we talked about the drafting, we talked about the lottery. We did a lot of, I think, good stuff, and one of the things we talked about was winning culture. Well, winning culture extends to fan bases as well. And I believe, honestly, we are out of the woods. We've created a good culture. We have good people in the locker room. And while there's a good chance that the Raptors could lose a ton of games this year, there's a good chance they could lose 52 games. There's also a chance they could actually surprise some people. And I believe that we, as a fan base, and we maybe as a community, since our basketball community, can be a voice of positivity in Raptorland. Could that be cool, right? For these young kids that, we're not sitting there saying, I mean, we got to drown out all of these Sasha Vazenkov fans who are spamming these guys' entire comment sections with free Sasha Vazenkov. People are like, what the hell? Like, despite what look, I contributed to this shit. I know that with the Fred VanVleet stuff, Pascal Siakam stuff, overrated, overpaid, get him out of here, blah, blah, blah. I know I contributed to it. This is pot calling kettle black. But let me quote Rocky Balboa: "If I can change and you can change, okay, we can all change, right?" So look, we pushed for something. We wanted a rebuild. We wanted this thing built around Scotty Barnes. We wanted positivity. We wanted the negative vibes out. We wanted Dennis Schroeder out. We wanted so many things. We got everything we wanted. There's nothing this community asked for that we didn't get, other than a tank, maybe this year or something like that. So look, we got what we wanted. Let's be happy about it. Let's support. Let's, do what they do, that thing that fans do. We've been the critics. We've been the naysayers. We've been all that. Let's be fans now if we can. Let's shake hands and move on, right? The importance of culture is so important, but the thing is, like, there's some fan bases that are just very scarred. They're scarred. They're mistrusting. They kind of just, it's almost like they hate their team. And I don't want us to be one of those fan bases. So you root how you want to root. I'm not telling you how to root. What I'm asking is take 2 minutes of your day and just go say, welcome to the Toronto Raptors. Good luck. I think it'll mean a lot to him. Weirdly enough, he seems like a really nice guy, man. He's a really cool guy. And while you're at it, go follow Jonathan Mobo too, man. Shout outs to Jonathan Mobo, and shout outs to Uri Shamshay, and shout outs to Jacoby Walter, and those guys. I mean, these are very underrated players. Uri Shamshay, he didn't come up in Duke. He didn't come up at Kentucky. So he's in Toronto. Let's let other young players envy. You know what I mean? Maybe this is a little bit toxic, but let's let the other young players see what's happening to you when you get drafted by the Raptors. You know what I mean? You get like an instant, and it's not vanity. I promise you, I don't give a shit about followers either. Like, I'm not subscriber counting either. The reality is, in this twisted world that we live in, followers equal brand deals. Okay. Now you might be saying, Rob, really want me to feel bad for an 18-year-old who's making six digits? Dude, after taxes and all that stuff, all the sacrifice, he's taking one of 450 spots in the NBA. Yeah, yeah, I want you to help the guy out, just like I wanted us to support Scotty when he was young. I have a sort of empathy for young people when they're navigating a new country, new culture, whatever, and I think every little bit helps. So I've ranted on for 4 minutes about why you need to go, and hopefully this rant was so annoying that you just said, "Ah, shut up, Rob." I'll just go to Instagram and say, welcome to Toronto, good luck. All right, that's all we need, man. We need to wipe the Fred VanVleet off us, right? All right, let's move on. Okay. Um, so specifically, what am I looking forward to? Okay, well, first of all, I'm looking forward to the fact that we are facing the Oklahoma City Thunder. That'll be a really big test. The OKC Thunder are stacked. I haven't looked at their roster yet. I apologize, but whether Kason Wallace is playing, I don't think Chet Holmgren's going to play. That would be crazy stupid of them. But Kason Wallace will probably play. They have, a ton of, yeah, obviously Nikola Topic is not going to play, but they are just so good at drafting and so good at developing. And there's probably Usman Jang. Like, I haven't looked at the roster yet, but I expect it to be a good one. Denver Nuggets. That's another good roster. That's another good young roster. You know, you got a lot of young players there. Julian Strawther from last year, so it'll be a little bit of a Julian Strawther, Drew Timmy, you know, Gonzaga reunion. Utah, another solid freaking young team. You got a lottery pick. You know, in Taylor Hendricks last year, you got Keontae George. I don't know if those guys are playing. Again, haven't looked at their rosters, but if those guys are playing, and I apologize. I should have looked at the rosters. Now I'm realizing that I was going to talk about this. And Miami, you know, I'm not nearly as good, but the Raptors will be tested. They will be tested. So who am I looking forward to the most? Obviously, you know, I'm looking forward to a lot of dudes, man. I love Javon Freeman Liberty. Y'all have been following me for a while. You know that I like Javon. I think that he was really good in the G League last year. But of course, when he came to the NBA, you know, when it came up to the NBA, there was a little bit of timidness. Is like, what position is he? He's more of a two. They're transitioning more to a one. They gave him, you know, the opportunity, and I don't think he necessarily set things up well. That being said, he's not a prototypical point guard, and so if those elements of his game have been taught, I've heard some people call Darko Rajakovic the point guard whisperer. Okay, so if those elements have been sort of taught into him, it'll be really interesting to see where he fits into the roster. I doubt he starts. But if he starts at point guard, it'll be interesting to see the gap between him and Jamal Shed, who is more of a prototypical table setting guard. Um, I am really looking forward to, you know, seeing what the athleticism on a guy like Brandon Carlson and a guy like Drew Timmy looks like, because both guys have massive speed, lateral quickness concerns for me. Okay, skill is not a question with these guys, right? With Brandon Carlson, and we will look at his stats, you know, very quickly. Um, Lights out 3-point shooter, you know, older guy, right? Same thing with Drew Timmy, another 4-year, 5-year college player. So, you know, they're taking a chance on a guy who's going to push somebody. And it's weird, you know, like this is like the Duncan Robinson sweepstakes, right? You're trying to find that guy. And it's interesting because you're not looking for what you usually look for, which is, you know, typically the Raptors Summer League is usually full of like ex first rounders who've kind of just like burned out their first stop, like the guys like Stanley Johnson or something like that. Or, you know, you're looking at like really athletic, you know, wings with freaky metrics like Mo G, right, last year. And it's interesting to see sort of that shift towards Darko ball, right? Where, okay, we're no longer developing guys who don't know how to play basketball, right? Who have long arms, long legs. This is what drives me crazy about the Precious Achiuwa Jonathan Mobo comparison. Apart from the fact that it is completely racially and aesthetically motivated, and it's unfortunate, you know, that's going to be sort of like how he's branded until he proves otherwise. But I think if you watch him, he proved otherwise within 12 seconds. You just have to see it, right? Jonathan Mobo is drafted because he has an incredible basketball IQ for the same reason that Grady Dick was drafted, for the same reason Jamal Shed's been drafted, for the same reason they're looking at guys like Drew Timmy, because intelligence seems to really matter in this system that Darko's running. Because when you're an offense that has to make 7 or 8 different decisions and every single player has to do their part or the whole thing breaks apart, you need really smart basketball players. I remember the story of Pau Gasol learning the triangle within like a day or something, and they were shocked, right? But that's what Spain basketball and being coached by Hubie Brown does for you. It makes you a smarter basketball player. The Toronto Raptors have gone from trying to develop these very athletic wings with long arms who have defensive potential into complete basketball players. They've gone from that to developing really intelligent basketball players with 1 or 2 really good basketball skills into more complete basketball players. See Emmanuel Quickley, see RJ Barrett, see Ochai Agbaji. All of them fit the same mold. You know what I mean? Like, if you consider what, like, every team has a type. If you look deeply enough, every team has a type. Consider what the Thunder did this year, right? Both draft picks, both draft picks, sub 30% 3-point shooters, plus 80% free throw shooters. What does that tell you? Their mechanics need adjusting, but they have shooting potential. That's what you look for, right? So the Toronto Raptors, right? They're not going for non-athletes. They picked a lot of length in those. All their guys have length, right? One or two of them have like some serious defensive. Well, I would say all of them have like very good two-way potential, but they're all really smart players. So I'm looking forward to Jonathan Mobile. I am looking forward to this guy because he's man. You know what I mean? Like he's a man child, right? So I think he's going to have like that physical development. There's a lot of guys who get kind of pushed around in summer league because there's a lot of grown men competing for grown men jobs. And when you're a first round pick or a borderline second round pick with a contract, you are hunted, and that's good. You are putting Jonathan Mobo and guys like Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick. You are putting them in the hunting ground, right? You may think like, oh man, this is exhibition. Look what happened to Bronny James yesterday, right? I mean, they were guarding him tighter. He's LeBron's son. He has an unearned nepotism opportunity, and fans might love Bronny James. I'm certainly no Bronny James critic, but the mentality of summer league is hunt or be hunted. It is very, very competitive. It's not structured. Don't discern, anything out of that. Like, don't be like, oh, this guy struggled in the offense. He struggled to find his rhythm, struggled to get to his shots, and so he's trash. No, the offense is going to look very different, obviously, when you have more time to coach these guys up and play together. And don't be too shocked if there's a couple of early turnovers. Obviously, we've all watched enough summer league to know that putting a team together this quickly of mishmash parts is not easy, right? It's helpful that you have smart players. You gel faster when you have smart players. You pick up concepts faster, and it really helps you have a great communicator at the head coaching spot, which the Raptors usually don't in summer league. No offense to the people who've coached summer league in the past, they haven't usually been great. John Mamalela, honestly, one of my favorite coaches, great for young players. So I'm really excited about that. So obviously, I'm very, very excited to see that. I am also excited to see Jacoby Walter. I am excited because, and this is why. So Jacoby had a really strange end to his season at Baylor, right? It was a cold shooting streak. He wasn't moving as well laterally, and the Toronto Raptors are banking on 13 game. Oh my God, I don't want to say 13 game. I don't want to say 13 game Walter because I feel like a lot of people are going to compare it to 13 game Bargnani, but it's the truth, right? The beginning was so much better than the end for him. So what I'm curious about is, do we see something closer to the beginning? Do we see a little bit more burst, a little bit more lateral quickness? Do we see a little bit more sureness on the jump shot? So I am excited to see Jacoby Walter for sure. I am also, excited to see if guys like DJ Carton, who kind of carved out a little bit of a spot in the rotation last year, show any improvement. Right, a lot of months have passed since the season. He is young, right? He was in his first year last year. Effectively, that's his rookie season. It doesn't matter what his draft year was; that was his rookie season. And the big wild card for me is Ochai Agbaji, right? Now, look, when we traded for Ochai Agbaji, I hadn't watched him in a while. The last Ochai Agbaji stuff I'd really watched was maybe a couple games against Utah that we've played. I haven't actively scouted out Jazz games, right? So I'm thinking back to the player that I saw at Kansas, right? And I liked Ochai at Kansas. I didn't think he was supposed to be a lottery pick, but I understood it. I understood the sureness of it, and I had no doubt that he was going to be a pretty good NBA player. Thought of him like maybe a more offensively dynamic, potentially more offensively dynamic Tony Allen or something of that sort, right? I wasn't projecting star with him, but the Raptors really need this guy to work out. Okay, it's not, oh my God, you have so much invested. It's just, it would really, really help if he did, right? This 3 and D archetype just isn't too present on your roster. He can't be a non-factor offensively like he was last year. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if a little bit more time has passed with him, familiarity, and maybe just kind of getting settled to say, hey, like this was my career. I was drafted by the Cavs. I got shipped to the Utah Jazz. And 2 years later, I got shipped to the Toronto Raptors. Like, there's been a lot of turmoil. Here's some stability. I'm sure Darko had some very, very, very good things to say to him and positive advice for him in their in their closing meetings when they exited their exit interviews. And so this is really his chance. This is his chance to latch on. This is his chance to not become Delano Banton or David Johnson or one of the handful of rookies, Malachi Flynn, etc., who kind of showed up at that next step. I'll quote something Rich Paul said, and I'm gonna have to pull up my phone for this because I thought it was brilliantly poetic. I loved it, and I know Rich Paul gets a bit of a bad rep. I know, people, everyone has something to say about Rich Paul, but I promise you, Rich Paul and Mav Carter are like really positive people to follow on social, and they, Rich's book is incredible and it's just very honest. And he said nothing's optional when you barely in. So this is a quote from Rich Paul, and I just loved it. It was from the Pivot podcast. Shout outs to Pivot. And I agree. I think when you are on the fringes, even if you are an ex lottery pick. And in the episode of Pivot, he talks about how so many first rounders are out of the league very quickly, right? Like really, like within 4 or 5 years, it's like 80%, 70% of the first rounders are out of the league, and don't even talk about second rounders. So when you get this chance, you better Fred VanVleet the shit out of it. You better like really show up. And this is a 4 game exhibition where you get to go out and you get to clamp. If you're Ochai Abaji, you're older. Right now you're like a couple year veteran. You're the most experienced, really. The most experienced player on the team is Ochai Abaji. He's the only player with 2 years. If I'm Ochai Abaji, that's offensive. I'm gonna be honest with you. If I'm his trainer right now, I'm telling him, bro, look at this roster. It's all rookies and first year players. You're the only guy in here after second year. What does that tell you? Go out and prove you will never be on this floor again. And let me tell you, there are plenty of rosters with fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth year players. You don't want to be on a summer league roster. If you're an ex lottery pick and you're on a summer league roster 2 years after you were a lottery pick, something has gone very wrong in your life and you need to correct it. So you need to come out here with this mindset of I am never playing summer league again. If you're Ochai Abaji, that has to be the goal, right? For Grady Dick, I'm interested to see if there has been continuation in the strength. I thought he was okay last year in summer league, a little bit up, a little bit down. I thought there was good flashes of getting to his spots, and his jumper was looking better than it did when the season started. I thought the playmaking potential was there. Has it expanded? Can we see Grady doing a little bit more lead initiator stuff? That would be really fantastic. Has his defense gotten a little bit better? Has he gotten stronger? That was the big shift with Grady. He got a little bit stronger midway through the season. Can we see a little bit of a continuation for him? That would be incredible. Um, yeah. And then, I mean, again, like I'm curious to see what else they have, but mainly those are the guys, those core guys for the Raptors. And obviously, if Javon Freeman Liberty, like he's great. Like he's really good. Like I think his skill, his shiftiness, his scoring package is good. It just, he's kind of not assertive enough. He doesn't exert his control over the game. And I think if I'm Javon Freeman Liberty, I think he's like 25 years old or so. Like this is the same see Ochai Abaji, same thing, right? This is offensive at this point. I know that he's a very good guy and he's like very happy go lucky and very gracious and stuff. But if you're him right now, you are in the Jeff Doughton situation right now. You are absolutely in the Jeff Doughton situation. And I do not want to have to create a free Javon movement this year. So and probably won't. But I really think that Javon has a chance to stick. I think he fits with the culture. I think he's a really cool player. It's just you don't want to be in that half space in the NBA. You don't want to be the guy that everyone's kind of like, I'm not sure if he's a 1 or a 2. You got to carve it out. You got to be like, no, I'm gonna be both, but I'm gonna be good at both. Like I don't like. There's a difference, right? I don't know if he's a 1 or a 2. I can put him at 1 or 2. There is a difference, right? And it matters. It matters so much that the coach has confidence in you that you can run that backup point spot because you're making yourself useful. Really, if you can effectively play the 1 or the 2, because he's a little undersized. He has crazy wingspan, but he's a little bit undersized for the 2. If you can show yourself, and he's a pretty good defender too. So there's a lot to like about Javon Freeman Liberty, and he's really smart and he works really hard. So again, the prototype is there. If you're asking me right now who's a better player, Javon Freeman Liberty or Ochai Abaji, Javon is a better player, right? I think definitively he's a better basketball player. But that doesn't mean that you're going to catch on, because at the end of the day, it's easier to waive your 1.8 million than it is to waive Ochai Abaji's 5, right? So that's what it's going to come down to. And you just don't want to be in the math of it, because that's what happened with Jeff Doughton last year. It was easier to waive him than it was to waive Malachi. It was because he didn't have a guaranteed contract. So this is going to be like the trimming end of the roster. We as fans might pour over it, and we might go into the minutia and the details and be like, yo, definitively Jeff Doughton is better for your team than Malachi Flynn. That's what I was saying last year, but it didn't matter. It was the math of the contract. So if you're Javon Freeman Liberty, you must realize that they have a full roster and you are the most disposable of those players. Come out with a chip on your shoulder, just like Ochai Abaji. Okay. We will have you covered after Summer League every single day. After the game, we will have a post game, just like it's a regular season, just like it's preseason. We're covering you for every single thing. I have cleared my schedule. I have told every single prior commitment that I will not miss a live this year. I missed one last year. I missed one last year, and I remember it to this day because it was for Penn Dance, and it was very, I believe it's the Atlanta Hawks, and it really pissed me off that I missed one. So I won't miss one this year. Okay. Um, okay. Before we talk about these unheralded summer league prospects, I do want to talk about the DeMar DeRozan bit, and I want to talk about what I saw with Bronny James, and I also want to give a shout out to Masai Ujiri. Happy birthday, Masai Ujiri. You know, I've been a bit of a I've been a bit of a Masai Ujiri apologist, and I talked about in the last video about why I've supported him so much over the years, and I've been so reluctant to be critical of him, even though I was very, very critical of him last year with the Fred VanVleet stuff and getting too emotional with the players, etc. I understand all of that, but I will say that it's been a very, very positive influence for me to see someone operate with integrity. And I was thinking a lot about integrity yesterday. I promise this won't be like a super long sidebar, but I was thinking about LeBron James, especially in the grander context of everything that's come out about Zion Williamson, everything that's come out about all these guys, right? Like really, like we're talking Zion, we're talking Ben Simmons, we're talking, Anthony Edwards, even like all the baby mama trouble and all that stuff. We're not even talking about the Miles Bridges and Jonte Porters of it. Okay, we're just talking like NBA athletes, temptations, managing expectations, all that stuff. Even Kobe with the scandals and stuff. And I was thinking, yeah, as much as I respect LeBron James, and LeBron James gets a lot of like credit for keeping his nose clean the entire time because he was like a franchise guy. Do we ever talk about just how good a guy DeMar DeRozan has been? I see a lot of people on Twitter trying to rewrite DeMar's history in Toronto, and I'm not for that. It will not happen under my watch. Okay. I understand that this image is not possible without DeMar leaving. I get that. I'm not someone who's going to ever sit here and tell you that the Raptors would have won a championship with DeMar DeRozan, that DeMar DeRozan could have done whatever Kawhi did, blah, 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 blah. I'm also not even telling you that DeMar was a casualty or that DeMar, didn't deserve shit or whatever. What I am telling you is that culture started, in my opinion, with someone like DeMar. He has fostered that positive culture literally everywhere he's gone. And that is despite all his demons and all of his trials and tribulations. When you listen to the stuff that he has gone through, not only with the depression, but with both his parents, when you understand where he's come from, when you understand all of the struggles of growing up, not struggles really. I'm not making it less than or more than. I'm just saying like that consider the many doors that you had to walk through, right? I remember story about Scotty Barnes, and it's like not really. I'm not even sure if it's something I've ever shared or something I'm even comfortable sharing. But the long and short of it is, West Palm Beach is is a place where I'm not comparing West Palm Beach to Compton, but I'm saying like it's not exactly the richest neighborhoods. You know what I mean? There's a lot of temptations. There's a lot of, there is some violence there for sure. And it takes a lot to just keep your nose clean and just keep going to the gym, keep going to the gym. And I just think that we don't give DeMar enough credit for being such a positive role model, for being such a positive culture builder for Toronto. You know, I don't think Kawhi Leonard built this culture. I really don't. I think he benefited a lot from the culture that DeMar and guys like Kyle Lowry built. I don't think Dwayne Casey won a championship here, and maybe he would have never won a championship. He was very vocal about his limitations, but I do believe that he helped establish this culture. I don't think that it's fair to look at the Raptors championship year as a isolated thing. I really don't. I think that's really unfair to the people who built it. People like Norman Powell, people like Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet for sure. But those guys also came into a brilliant situation. And so, I look at people like Jama Malalela as very differently, and I look at DeMar DeRozan very differently, and I see gestures like him showing up for Ayo Dosunmu, and I see small gestures like, Scotty Barnes still keeping in touch with Utah Watanabe. And that's when I say like Scotty's spirit for his teammates and being there for his teammates is very similar to the spirit that DeMar had. And you may have never felt that DeMar DeRozan was on par with the league's top stars. And you may have always felt that that's the reason the Raptors were limited with him. But in terms of like loving your teammates and supporting your teammates and guiding your teammates and helping your teammates, and especially your younger teammates, having empathy for your teammates, understanding, teaching them the ropes, teaching them what to do, what not to do, where to go, not where not to go, setting that positive example of if my star player is in the gym, I don't want to be in the club. That is so important. That's so important. Okay. And the fact that we are this many years into DeMar's career and we don't have any baby mama scandals, we don't have any violence, drug charges, we don't have any, crazy ass stuff about him that's come out. I think that's huge. I think that's huge, and I think that's a testament to the type of person he is. And yeah, some of you may feel some sort of way about, D Rose came home, that lyric in Kendrick Lamar's thing. And I'll tell you right now, DeMar's always, going to support Compton rappers, and that's who he is. And I think that the most important thing, I'm going to say the most important thing with DeMar was he really adopted Toronto. He adopted it as a place that he wanted to be. And I know that I'm never going to be one who says like, oh, we should be happy that someone wants to be here. I never believe in that. But when somebody invests in your organization, when someone says this is my home, this is my, my place, I got us, that should not be taken for granted, because there are people who come in and they don't feel that way about you. And I can tell you there are plenty of Raptors that y'all, some of you, some of whom won a championship, some of y'all who adore, that never felt the way about Toronto that DeMar did, because DeMar's just loyal. And I think loyalty is very underrated and underappreciated. So, congratulations to DeMar DeRozan going to Sacramento. How do I think it's going to fit? I don't think it's going to fit at all. Personally, it's a great talent upgrade over Harrison Barnes, but I think Harrison Barnes is the type of utility forward. I think he's a better defender than DeMar DeRozan. Debo's not a complete non-defender. He's, certainly an upgrade over some guys, but with Malik Monk being one of the worst defenders in the league, De'Aaron Fox, despite what Leo says to me all the time, he's like, he's so great, he's so great, he's so great. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is a great defender. I don't think I really hope they didn't bring Jalen McDaniels hoping that he was going to solve the problems. He's not going to solve the problems. Domantas Sabonis can't guard his corpse. Keon Ellis is amazing, amazing defender, but that's about it. I'm not really sure where their defense is going to come from. They need a rim protector in the worst way. You know who they need? They need Paul Reed. I don't know if he's been waived yet, but I really like Paul Reed. I really like Paul Reed. And given, where the Sixers are right now, I cannot imagine why they would want to get rid of him. But if they do get rid of him, I would love him. Speaking of people that are still available on free agency, ping-ponging to that subject, Gary Trent Jr. remains a free agent unless he was signed in the last hour. Then I don't know about it, and I'm not looking at the comments right now because I want to get distracted. I will look at all the comments and the super chats after. If there are any super chats, I will answer them. But I got to speed through this because we got to head out really soon. So, yes, Gary Trent Jr. Not efficient, really bad year, good shooter, not a lot else. I've heard people call him a great defender. He is not. He is not a good defender. He's not a great defender. He is not. He might be the second worst defender on this roster, third worst defender on this roster right now, which is not actually a good thing because this roster is not a good defensive team. He is not a good defender. He struggles laterally. He struggles finishing in the paint. It got a little bit better, but he's the one guy under Darko where I didn't see him get like a lot better. I wonder why that is. Clutch has mismanaged this pretty badly, right? I don't know who told him to opt into his player contract last year, but I can argue that he probably gets at least a full mid-level for 3 years last year. But this year, after another year on an even worse team, he probably thought, hey, I'll have more opportunity. But not only, he did have more opportunity, and that was a terrible thing for him because he had to play with a worse roster. And playing off of a worse roster makes Gary Trent worse because his contested 3-point percentage is ridiculously bad, and his open 3-point percentage is really good. So when he's playing off of guys who can create for him and get him clean open looks like Fred and Pascal and Scotty, like when there's three of those guys, it's much easier than when you're playing off guys like Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, and Scotty Barnes. So in my opinion, he probably couldn't have known that the Raptors were going to go this way, but Clutch should have known that the Raptors were going to go this way. In fact, Clutch did know the Toronto Raptors were going to go this way. And so this is kind of like a mismanagement on their part. And, they have a client who has probably lost a lot of money, right? In fairness, He also made a lot of money on his last contract, so nobody's really crying. $51 million in his last deal. I don't think he was worth that. So you overpaid on the last one. But now I'm kind of curious what the holdup is because there are some teams that could use him. Teams like the Denver Nuggets. It's not going to be for a lot of money, but replacing that gap with Contavious Caldwell Pope, he's not as good as KCP. He's not even close. But he can replace some of the 3-point shooting, ping ponging off of guys like Jokic and Murray. So it would be good for them. And I think he'll be an upgrade over someone like Julian Strather, who really struggled last year. Then you have the Marcus, wow, Markel Fultz. Wow. Okay, brain fart there. Markel Fultz of it all. And I really like Markel Fultz, and I don't see a backup point guard on this roster. I don't care what y'all say about Davion Mitchell. I am not penciling that guy in as a backup point guard. I think he's a third string point guard if you want to be good. You can argue the Raptors don't want to be good. You can argue, whatever. But I personally think Davion should be playing summer league. But maybe you should. Okay, maybe it'd be disrespectful to play him summer league. He's like damn near 27 years old, and maybe you don't want him to play summer league because you got Jamal Shed, and that would just be overlap. They can't play together. Blah blah blah. But shit, that's also the case during the regular season, right? So I would look at Markel Fultz for sure. And if I'm his agent, I'm looking here too. Because this is a clear opportunity. He is a massive talent upgrade over whatever the hell you have. And I don't think whatever Davion Mitchell brings on defense is worth what Markel Fultz brings on offense because he's the type of player you just don't have on your roster. And I don't believe in unearned opportunities. I believe in development, but I don't believe in unearned opportunities. I don't believe that what Davion Mitchell has done to this point should guarantee him a backup point guard spot. No, I do not. He is not Javon Carter. He is not like even on that level of player. So for me, this is a clear opening, and the Raptors would be wise to address it if they're not. Now, if they go Markel Fultz, now this is just crazy. This would be so stupid. If they manage to pull this off, they will be a playoff team. Go Markel Fultz, Paul Reed, if he gets waived, sign them both, right? To your mid level, right? No, you can do both, right? You can orchestrate a sign and trade for literally both. You have a traded player exception and you have to waive somebody. And then make a trade for Cam Johnson. That would be great. Man, that would be a great roster. That would be a really good roster. Tell me what you think about that roster. That'd be great. Mark backup point guard, Davion third string. Jamal Shed spends most of his time in the G League. Next year, when he's better than Davion, I argue he might even be already better than Davion right now. Just pass him up and be the third string point guard. Push in practice, right? That's what you want from your third string point guard. You want a dog. You want a dog who can play as your third string point guard because it pushes everybody above him to be better. It also makes them better because he's such a pressure guy. So again, like, and also this is sort of an underrated factor that I didn't think about before. I think Davion, for all his weaknesses, is going to really push Emmanuel Quickley to be a better point guard because he is just such a load physically on defense. So once you put up with him every day in practice, or not every day, but put up with him all summer, scrimmages, play groups, etc. The Raptors will practice more than most teams because they're younger. I think it'll make Emmanuel Quickley sharper. If nothing else, like that's all. I always want defenders on my second unit to make my starters sharper, but I also want guys who can play. I think the same thing could be said for Markel Fultz making Emmanuel Quickley sharper because he can actually push him, not necessarily for a starting spot, but he can push him for minutes because he is that good. Okay, moving on to DeMar DeRozan's fit. We talked about that. What did I see from Bronny James? Bronny James struggled yesterday. He did struggle. He scored 4 points. People clowning him, people laughing, people saying it's unearned opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. I saw a guy who defended pretty well. I saw a guy who got into the passing lanes. I saw a guy who tried. I saw a guy who didn't really force things too much. His jumper didn't fall. I'm not really thrilled with his shooting selection. And, if I can be critical of one thing with Bronny James and the entire situation, it is that his father forced him to go to the Lakers. Now, if you are of the belief, and I'm not, but if you are of the belief that had LeBron not pushed the Lakers to draft Bronny, that Bronny James would have gone undrafted. If you are of that belief, fine. I will concede that you're right. But I'm not of the belief. I'm of the belief that Bronny James needed to go to OKC. or Bronny needed to go to the Celtics, or Bronny needed to go to what's the third place that he should have gone? Shit. There is a third place, then they are fantastic at developing shooters, and I'm forgetting who they are, but they have, like, one of the best shooting coaches in the league. Is it the Pelicans? I think they lost their coach, but anyways, there is a coach, not Chip England, another guy, and he's incredible. He's 53 years old. He's a former player, and I'm forgetting his name right now, but he is an incredible coach. I think you needed to take him to a place where he was away from familiar, and I think you needed to take him to a place where he really had to earn it. And if he's not worth this contract, he's not worth the contract. But 4 years guaranteed, whatever they signed him to, I don't necessarily think that helps him. It's also not a great show of faith in the player, right? 4 years guaranteed at so little money is basically like charity. This is stupid, right? If you believe he's going to be better, then you shouldn't be signing a 4 year contract. You should be signing a 2+1, right? So that to me just signals a complete lack of doubt, a lack of faith in him. He didn't look great. I'm gonna be honest. Like he was like the seventh, eighth, ninth. He was probably like the 11th best player on the court, maybe. Right? That's a maybe. Athletically, I think it's a little bit overrated. People talk about the vert a lot. He looks a little bit smaller. I've been talking about that for years. Like he does look a little bit smaller than his listed 6'4". Obviously, he tested out 6'2". The length is there. Is he Davion Mitchell without a jump shot? Like that's a really bad player, right? That's a really bad player. That's a horrible player. Like what I just described is basically like like Turkey, China. Like you go there, you don't go to the NBA. When you're Davion Mitchell without a jump shot, and you're not even as, but he's 19, and therein lies the thing, right? He's 19, he's coming off the heart thing, and therein lies the upside that he was a top 30 ranked, high school guy. One could argue maybe that was also kind of like fluffed up, right? Was he that great in high school? Sierra Canyon, I think like he was playing for. Like, I don't think he was that great in high school either. You know what I mean? So what is the upside on Bronny James? Honestly, I think he could at most be a backup guard in the NBA. I don't see a starter. And I didn't see a starter yesterday, even though he's starting for the Lakers summer league squad. I saw a guy who needs to initiate more. I saw a guy who needs to, use. He's very Jeff Doughtony, whereas like you're looking at him, right, and you're like, God damn it, do more, do more. Don't do less. Be assertive, be aggressive. You can't get away with just standing in a corner doing nothing when you're a non-shooter. And he stood in the corners a lot, right? So I'll be curious to watch it. I'm watching a lot of summer league games, as they go, because I'm curious to see what young players are doing right now. But yeah, I'm also going to be really curious to see the Olympics. I don't think we're going to talk about the Olympics, because then we're just going to be like, we are going to just completely lose the plot here, because I think we're going to go well over the hour if we start talking Olympics. But we will have you covered for the Olympics as well. Team USA, Team Canada. I'm very curious, right? Team USA, super old roster. Yes, I'm going to talk about the Olympics for 2 minutes. Super old roster, right? Are they beatable? KD, LeBron, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton. There's only one ball, right? Joel Embiid. That's the reason I think they're beatable. I think they're beatable because they have Joel Embiid. Is that crazy? That's just me being a hater, right? As I sip on my Mickey Mouse cup. That's hilarious. I've had this since I was a kid. It's one of my weirdly cherished childhood memories. So yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for Canada, obviously, and Serbia. I would hope that they make it through, but I'm also curious to see how France will do. Am I low key rooting for France? I don't have any French roots. I lived in Paris for 6 months when I was a kid, but I really want to see somebody beat the United States, man. I really do, because I agree. I think it would be really fantastic, because you do have a solid team. You don't get to say, "Oh, we lost because we have Walker Kessler." No, you have Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis this time. You have no excuse to lose. So it's going to be very David versus Goliath. But here's something that I would love to do, and I would love for y'all to I would love to make a live, about this. Would Team USA's B squad, which would include guys like Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving, Scotty Barnes, Paolo Banchero, a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys. Jalen Brown, I think, too. I don't know if he's on the main squad. There's so many guys. I was just thinking, man, would their B squad beat everybody? Their A squad might not. But could I assemble a team full of guys who weren't picked for this team that could beat not only this team, but literally every team in the world. I think I could. That goes to show you just the level of, depth that is on the United States. You know what I mean? And that's what frustrates me so much that Joel Embiid would play for the United States. I understand this sob, bullshit of like, oh, I want to play where my son was born, blah, blah, blah. Nah, bro, you just want to win. You just want to win. And I get it, but not when it comes to the Olympics, man. You can do that. Like you've never heard me call Kevin Durant a snake. I love Kevin Durant for going to the 73 win Warriors. But going to Team USA to shore up their center spot, like I hope Nikola Jokic puts up 50 on him. I hope they lose. I really do. You cannot like to me, the minute they put Joel Embiid, I was just like, I don't even care that I'm an American citizen. I am officially rooting against Team USA. That's congratulations. I've never rooted against Team USA in my life for anything. I'm officially now rooting against Team USA. Congratulations, Joel Embiid. All right. Let's talk about those unheralded players. Okay, so let's talk first. Hold on about Brandon Carlson. I've heard a lot of people talking about Brandon Carlson as, this, let's call him Kelly Olynyk light. I think that's again another very racially motivated and very pathetic way of interpreting his game. He is nowhere near the playmaker, nor that he has shown that he is anywhere near the playmaker that Kelly Olynyk was when he was in college. But we are seeing some positive growth from his first year in Utah. He stayed all 5 years, right? He had a double senior season because that was granted to all COVID prospects. I'm sorry to call them COVID prospects, but that is what the fifth year was for. And ultimately, you have a player, I think, who has a very impressive combination of skills because I mean, I feel like I'm describing, what I feel like I'm describing? I feel like I'm describing Liam Neeson. I have a very specific set of skills that make me a nightmare for drop bigs. Well, yeah, I mean, in a vacuum, he does, right? He's a good 3-point shooter and he takes them on pretty high volume. He has a 36%, 36.5% 3-point attempt rate, which is pretty decent. To those seeing he's a great shot blocker, chill on that shit. He is not a great shot blocker at all. Per 100 possessions last year, as a 5-year senior, he averaged 3 blocks per game. I mean, honestly, he is 7'1". He just have to be halfway decent as a shot blocker in college to get that. But there are college players who average like 6 and then come to the league and they're not great shot blockers. So, I think like he's not a great shot blocker. He's not a great rim protector. He does not guard well in space. He has a lot of athletic concerns as far as I'm concerned. In terms of awards and honors, again, like second team, all Pac-12, one, and then last 2 years, first team, all Pac-12, right? So that's really interesting. He had 63 blocks in 2022, 2023, which was first in the Pac-12. So I understand why you would say like he is a good shot blocker, but people saying he's a great shot blocker are tripping themselves out. I don't think I don't think he guards well in space or gets up high enough or fast enough to be for that to translate. I'm not saying he's a non-shot blocker, but he's definitely not going to be some sort of defensive prospect like a Walker Kessler if that's what you're expecting. Um 25 years old. I don't think we talk about this enough. I really don't. Where how much of an advantage a 25-year-old has at the end level. And I'm not trying to shit on the guy. I think it's like fantastic that he stayed all 4 years. He probably had a ton of NIL deals and money and whatnot. But really, like we are talking about 25-year-olds going up against on average a 25-year-old 7-footer, 24, 25-year-old 7-footer in those last 2 years, going up on average against guys who are 21, 20. That's a massive gap. At that age, it's a massive gap. Maybe 20, maybe 32 and 27 is not a massive gap, even though it's still a gap. But at the younger ages, 25 years old, 24 years old, 23 years old is a major gap. And you will see such a jump for a lot of college seniors. That's why, maybe some people are a little bit bearish on someone like Dalton Connect because he was 23, but he was in a 7-footer who was seven, again, like you have to really dominate. And I don't think he did. So I'll be very curious to see how he plays off of other guys because obviously when you are a stretch big, more stretch, more space, better players, you could be really, really solid. So I'll be very curious to see how clean the shot is, how quick it is. what else he can do, how he navigates space, how he communicates defensively. Is he a good team defender? These are the things I'm looking for with him. But yeah, it wasn't like a steady one-way production with him. Um, moving forward to here we go. So I'll apologize in advance for all the pop-ups and stuff. Jamison Battle is a 6'7" forward, right? I have not watched him play much. I think I probably watched one game that he played at Ohio State last year, and I don't think I was watching for him. So I don't have a great insight on this player. If y'all do, I hope that you can, share it in the chat with other people, like what you've looked into with him. But yes, last year for the Ohio State Buckeyes, he averaged per 100 possessions 29 points, 10 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and he shot 43% from three. That's solid. On his career at Ohio State, we saw, well, on his three different stops from George Washington, Minnesota to Ohio State, he is a 37% three-point shooter. So that's telling me that this guy boards and he shoots threes. Okay, and he's got a little bit of size to him, which is pretty cool. Again, this is like basic casuals ups. Like I will be able to tell you a lot more about Drew Timmy than these guys, but I cannot tell you with conclusive evidence. I don't see an NBA player here. Like I'm looking at the, again, 5-year senior, 6.4 box plus minus in the Big Ten. Ohio State can shoot some threes, right? This is where we're at right now. Not much of a defensive disruptor, a 0.7% block percentage, 0.8%, steal percentage. These are not great numbers at all. He wasn't some super dude like in terms of that. So in terms of honors and awards, not a really super decorated college freshman. I mean, honestly, like looking at this does not scream, without watching him play too much, this does not scream a guy who's going to make an NBA roster anytime soon unless he's gotten way better. So it's probably just a flyer. Let's move on to Dylan Disu. So this is a slightly bigger player, another forward, right? Had multiple stops. So first at Vanderbilt and then at Texas in the Big 12. Again, SEC, Big 12, he played solid competition throughout. So there's no questions about the competition. There are, however, questions about what else he did, right? So 3-point attempt rate didn't necessarily go up. He had a crazy shooting year last year. 45% from three is nuts. If that's real, and again, it probably isn't, but 25 games is a pretty sufficient sample size. So if he's just turned himself around as a shooter, this is a guy where you can see like real progression year over year over year over year. And this is interesting, right? You got a guy with 10.7 box plus minus, really active and disruptive defender, 4.6% block percentage is great, 2.9. Again, as a big, that's awesome, right? I mean, this is impressive. And a 28% free throw rate, that's not bad. And he flashed it at second year at Vando. Like he had 40% free throw rate. That's not bad either. 30% usage. Again, in the Big 12, 30% usage. This is what I expect from a 5-year senior. 10.7 boxes minus 45% from three. I can get on board with this. This is a guy. I'm gonna put it in my notes. Look this guy's tape up because this is pretty cool. Moving on to Omari Moore, a player that I am a little bit more familiar with because I have definitely seen him play, last year. I think he was playing in the G League. So San Jose State, did he have solid progression? Did he have? Yes. He grew every single year, and it was like not a joke. His final year at San Jose State, again, Mountain West, okay, it's a little bit weaker conference. Same thing, Malachi Flynn, I get it, right? But 30 points, right? 30 points, 8 assists, 8 boards, 2.2 steals, 2.2 blocks, 4.5 turnovers. The turnovers went down, junior year to senior year, which is positive. The impact metrics definitely went up in his final year, 6.5 box plus minus. Not bad, not great. Clearly, this is why he's in the summer league. It'll be interesting to see where his three-point attempt rate has come. Obviously, as a senior, 38%. Someone clearly got into his ear and said, "Hey, man, if you're making it into the NBA, you as a 6'6" guy, you're gonna have to really, really, shoot the basketball, right? As a and I think that that he has, and the percentages when he upped his when he was a 42.9% three-point shooter, and this is why we say volume matters, right? Because it's easy to just take the easy ones, but it's difficult when you have that pressure to put up 10 a game. And this is what happens when you take, like, for instance, like a guy like Cody Williams this year, right? It was super low volume, and people were like, this is concerning because, yeah, he's a 42% three-point shooter, but it's low volume. What happens? Well, this is what happens when you up the percentage. If you when you up the three-point attempt rate, the percentages start to flatline and fall down a little bit. And so, again, 34% three-point shooter, not exactly impressive career given, the fact that he's 6'6", and given the fact that, he played all 4 years and we didn't see that steady progression every year, but we did see a steady progression in terms of the overall, like the overall trend line is up. He didn't flatline, he didn't go down. He started as a 23% three-point shooter at 3 attempts. He ended up as a 33% shooter at nearly 10 attempts. And that to me shows me that this is a guy who worked really hard from freshman to senior year. May not be the most naturally gifted or talented player, probably isn't. I'll be really curious to see him play though. Now we got Tyler Perry. No, not that Tyler Perry, different Tyler Perry. Let's check him out here. So this is a guy who is my size, which is cool. Okay. Point guard. He had 4.2 win shares. This is looking not great. A 5'11" guy who shot 33% from three, and we got a baby's bottom. Okay. So again, Kansas State, Big 12. Uh, well, let's take a look at the North Texas stuff because I do think like being a starter for Kansas State is a pretty big deal, and that might be where we're at right now because obviously Kansas State is it's a pretty good program, and again 5.3 boxes minus as a senior. He probably redshirted as a freshman. This shows me also a tremendous growth. If you're being honest, like this shows me like he stepped up massively in terms of conference competition from Conference USA to Big 12. That's a very big jump, and for him not to completely fall apart as a player, he obviously entered the transfer portal. I've never watched him play in my entire life. So did I watch a single Kansas State game this year that I remember? No. But this is interesting. So in terms of three-point shooting, again, 2 years in Conference USA, 41%, 41%. Last year, 33.5%. So that's telling me this is a shooter who had a difficulty adjusting probably to competition, new teammate, new system, whatever. When you're 5'11", man, that going up a level. So I'll be very curious to see if he has a deep three. Knowing very little about this player, I'm not a Tyler Perry expert at all. I would really be curious to see if he has added that Marquise Noel, step back logo three. I don't call it a Marquise Noel logo three. I call it the Steph Curry logo three, but no one's mimicking Steph. So, the Trey Young, like, when you're 5'11", when you're 6 feet, like Fred VanVleet in that area, you got to be able to shoot from super deep. Like you just got to. You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna shoot it at 24 feet. Nope, you can't. You need to be really comfortable at 27 feet and out. So I'll be curious to see if he has a deep three. Clearly 41% back-to-back years, Conference USA. You clearly got a shot. Like you got a jump shot. Personally, I don't think with Jamal Shed on this roster that they're going to get another one of these guys, but maybe he shows something. I always want to assume the best. Okay, then Quincy Guerrier. This is a name that we have definitely heard, and this is if you watched Illinois in the tournament this year, this is a guy that I was really interested in. Very productive college player. All 5 years, it's been very interesting to watch. Not necessarily per game, but his per 100 averages show you how damn productive he is. So we're talking 15 rebounds, 23 points, like, and it's been like that pretty much since he was a freshman, right? So There isn't a tremendous amount of growth in the overall production, but he's been very productive and very active throughout. Um, 3-point percentage has gone up considerably, like clockwork. So we went from 2 attempts per 100 possessions as a freshman to his first year at Oregon to 10 attempts per 100 possessions. That's a 500% boost and also a 300% climb in 3-point percentage. So it tells me that he got to Syracuse, found out that he was a real NBA athlete, a man child, if you will. Because honestly, like to put up 24 points and 15 rebounds per 100 possessions with 2 blocks, like this is like Hakeem Warwick type of shit back in the day. That tells me that he's a very productive athlete who has to learn how to shoot. And again, in his final year at Illinois, 37.4% on 7.2 attempts. That's not bad. For a real athlete, like this is a guy, I mean, in maybe like 25 years ago, this guy would have been drafted at the top of the second round. But again, this is a very talented version of the NBA. And, guys like this who are a little bit undersized, a little bit older, you know, unless you're just wowing people away and averaging 30 points a game, you're not getting drafted, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. And now we got Drew Timme, really one of the most decorated, one of the most notorious, one of the most known, ex-teammate of, Jalen Suggs, ex-teammate of a lot of guys, ex-teammate of Andrew Nemhard, right? I've watched Drew Timme play tons of times. And people always, complain that Drew Timme is not an NBA player, but he's like this great college player. Look at his per 100 per 100 possessions. 37.5%, 13.3 rebounds, 5.7 assists, 1.1 steals, 1.7 blocks. Like just a ridiculous, overall load as a college player. My curiosity to see Drew Timme now, because I didn't watch him at all last year. I only watched him at Gonzaga. My curiosity will be how he fits in when the offense is not running through him, right? Um, so that will be my major curiosity with Drew Timme. Like I think like he is a very slow-footed athlete. So that's the first thing that sticks out with him, but he's extremely talented. Does he, kind of fit the high post, playmaker type? Yeah, sure. He totally fits into that box that the Raptors like to check. Box with Jonte Porter, but he's nowhere near the athlete Jonte was. He's nowhere near, in my opinion, the playmaker Jonte was. Like, don't be dissuaded by, don't be fooled by like 5 assists or whatever. Yes, he had the ball a lot. I don't think he's a great or exceptional playmaker. I never felt that way about him. And I really don't think that he's necessarily the greatest shooter either. So that's I think that the part that I'm curious to see if he's worked on that, right? Because I mean, again, 25% 3-point shooter in college and not very athletic. Like this is where people say, "Hey, Zach Edey, right? Like what the F, right? Zach Edey going in the lottery." And a lot of people are upset about it because of this, right? When you're not athletic, you're not super fast. And it's not like he even tries defensively. This is not me just drive by on Drew Timme. Great college player, not a great athlete, not a high motor defensively, not a great playmaker, not a great shooter. So, what is he? He's extremely crafty. He's extremely physical. He is a throwback big. He would be probably a lottery pick 25 years ago, right? He's a very throwback player, a very productive player, and a very smart player. He really understands angles. He understands, how to use your balance against you. He gets the game. Again. So I'll be very curious to see how he runs, how he operates in an offense that isn't about him, right? Because again, in summer league, he's going to be a man among boys, right? Like this guy is physically very tough, right? So if he gets like some small player, he's going to do them what he's been doing to dudes and Gonzaga like his whole life, right? But I'll be curious to see him spacing, screening, doing stuff that he's going to be asked to do at the NBA level. So that'll be my curiosity. So that's just a little bit of a superficial deep dive into some of the players that we're looking at in summer league. And again, there are no complete non-players, right? And I hope that, through this, I hope, you learn a little bit about Quincy Guerrier, right? Obviously, nothing that you couldn't have Googled yourself. Maybe you guys can check out if there's any player that we talked about that was super interesting. Maybe what you can do is you can look them up, watch a couple games, come back to this community, and then we all get better. You can call in, maybe we do a call-in show or whatever, and you can talk a little bit about that prospect. It'd be cool. Look, the truth is, with how young the Toronto Raptors are, the chance that any of these guys are going to make the roster is very, very slim, if not none. Right? I do believe that. However, it's good to know, what the Raptors are looking at because believe it or not, this summer league roster shows me that they're looking for front court help, right? I mean, we're seeing a guard, we're seeing a little bit of a backup guard for depth purposes, but we're seeing a lot of productive front court players who are very skillsy, very productive, good rebounders. And of course, you have the Jonathan Mobo pick. Um, I'll be and honestly, I didn't talk about it, but I'm gonna be super curious to see how raw Ulrich Shamshay looks, right? Physically, again, like some of the stuff that this guy posts, the blocks, the moments, if you would just create a clip of like a 1-minute clip of all the best stuff that Ulrich Shamshay has done over the last 1 year, you could probably talk yourself into him being like a top 5 pick, right? But if you take a look at the entire game and all the mistakes that he makes and all the moments that he has, which are like, whoa, missed layups, right? Botched assignments, poor communication, moving screens, offensive fouls, more moving screens. Just understanding the game is very far behind for him. So I think it might be a speed thing. I'll be very curious to see how he does. I don't know if he'll start. It would be really weird, in my opinion, for him to start over some of the players you have, because frankly, he's the worst player on your roster by far. Yes, he's the worst player on a summer league roster, and I'm still hopeful about his overall outcome because guys grow a lot from 18 till 25, 26, 27, whatever. And I don't want to compare him and Brandon Carlson. And I don't want people to be like, oh, Brandon Carlson's better than him. It's like, no shit, he's better than him. He's played basketball like, 17 years longer than him. It matters a lot. Okay, let's get to some comments before we check out here. Okay, we got 2 super chats. Whoa, okay, Larry Kane. Really appreciate these last several lives. You're taking it to a new level. Thank you for all you do. I really appreciate you as well, sir. And yeah, I don't think this live was nearly on that level. I didn't really have anything too deep to say. I'm really looking forward to Summer League, and I just wanted to share that enthusiasm. Maybe there was a little bit of depth to what I said about the Uri Shamshay and supporting young players, but I don't really think that this live carries on the very profound nature of the previous lives. But hopefully, it was good anyways. Graham Kennedy, thank you for the super chat as well. Now let's get to some of these questions and comments. Let's see if something sticks out. Okay. Um, would you want to get Poku? He got waived by the Hornets. Nope. And that's my fellow countryman. So yeah. Um, we need to waive some players. Yeah, I don't know about waiving, but definitely wouldn't mind trading some players. Isaac Okoro, anyone, he really fits what the Raptors want to do, but I'm not necessarily sure they're gonna. Um, I'm not necessarily sure they're gonna push for anybody who pushes Ochai Abaji. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's too much redundancy there, in my opinion. Ao Gorman saying DeMar a real one. I can't front. Thank you, appreciate that. I'm sure he does too. He said he's not like us. Key, I'm cool on, dude. Um, okay, so I just want to say this as a not black person. I don't think us means Canadians. Okay, I think not like us is not. I don't think that's a shot at Canadians, right? You can point to the fact that I ain't gonna let a Canadian, say this about Pac or whatever, but it's not like nothing that I've ever seen from Kendrick Lamar suggests that he has an issue with Canadians. Not Like Us is not a rap beat about Canadians. I don't think it's a diss track about Canadians. I don't think you need to take it too personally when he says not like us. I don't think the us in reference is Canadians. I think the us in reference is something else. DeMar did a lot. Yep. Absolutely. Um, Summer League is going to be fun, says Jay. I agree. West playoff teams next year: OKC, Timberwolves, Mavericks, Rockets, Kings, Pelicans, Suns, Grizzlies. Wow. You think the Pelicans gonna make it over the Nuggets? That's deep. That's a deep cut. But I believe you when you say OKC number 1. Ryan saying, "It's funny how Fred VanVleet is used as an example for such positive and negative qualities." I agree. I wish every young player who comes into this organization works as hard as Fred VanVleet. I really do. I hope they take their craft as seriously as Fred VanVleet. I hope they approach their, next contract and their business as seriously and with as much ambition as Fred VanVleet. I hope they have as much of ambition as Fred VanVleet. I hope they're family men like Fred VanVleet. I hope they, keep their nose clean and I hope that Fred becomes a good um yeah, but I don't want them to be teammates like Fred VanVleet. I don't want them to have that expression of anger towards and resentment towards their young players. I don't want them to gun for contracts the way Fred VanVleet did. So, people are complicated. People are different. I'm not gonna broad brush every good thing that Fred VanVleet ever did and just brush it away because he did some stuff that I don't agree with. Like, people are complicated, right? Um, all rookies from 2024 class, they look bad yesterday. Yeah, it's a bad draft class. I wasn't kidding when I said that. I'm really hoping the Raptors found like some gems, right? But like you got to be real with yourself. In an average draft, Jacoby Walter is not going top 20. Jonathan Mobile not going 31. Uri Shamshay, he probably goes 57th regardless, right? I think he fell a little bit further than he should have. And Jamal Shed's probably undrafted. You know what I mean? Like, so it is one of those drafts. But I do believe, as I said before, with the Raptors development staff, they're going to get the best out of these players. Kalel Ware looked good. Looked bad. Good thing Miami picked him. It's summer league. Let's not live and die on the hill of summer league, man. Kalel Ware with 12, 6, 5 blocks summer league. Should bring Sasha to Jane and Finch, then maybe he'll warm up to Toronto. Okay. Um, should I say welcome back to Bruce Brown? Um, you can do that if you would like. In terms of the positivity, yeah, sure. Our Lost is our female comic. Nice. Appreciate you. Thanks for your insight. Thanks, man. I don't even know if that's towards me. Greek people keep saying free Sasha. They can keep saying it. Sasha is another Goron. I that's racist. Okay. Hit him with a follow hit him with a follow after you saw your tweet. I totally agree with what you're saying. Thanks a lot, Isaac Turner. Yeah, guys, like look, this community, I believe community, culture, all these things can go hand in hand. I would love for this community to be, um, good balance. We've always been about balance, right? Someone asked me the other day why I don't make videos about Scotty Barnes as much anymore, and I said because the media is not tearing him apart and blaming him and scapegoating him for a lost season that he didn't destroy. You know what I mean? Like they're not saying he's not a hard worker. Believe me, if that shit starts coming out again, you will see me go on a 5 video rant about why the media is stupid. But that's not happening anymore, so I don't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like he's still my favorite player, absolutely. But we can talk about other things, right? Um, yeah. So I think that this community can be like a really positive example because we sometimes, don't have like the best reputation, unfortunately. Uh, okay, we're past an hour and 14. I was supposed to go an hour. I will say one final thing. I will be on the panel Player's Choice tomorrow and Friday. So 11 a.m. on the panel. Last one was dope. It was great. It was about Klay Thompson. I don't know what the subject's going to be tomorrow, but I will be on the panel on Player's Choice tomorrow. To those of you guys who keep checking in, thank you. Appreciate your support. Appreciate you guys in the comment section backing me up, bigging me up. That's really how the panel works, is a bunch of really, really, big time content creators, including content creators who are like 100 times bigger than me, like Legend of Winning, and people like that, Ticket TV. I mean, there's a lot of, American content creators who've gotten together on that channel, and they come together on the panel, and Chilltown and Swiper and all these guys. So these are all people with a platform. So it really does help when people are coming into that space from our space, and bigging it up. It helps, of course. You are boss level on that panel. I appreciate the support, Oak Tree, but I got a long way to go for sure. Um, Tom is Scotty Messiah and Quickly Conference. Tomorrow is Scotty Messiah and Quickly Conference. Ooh, that is gonna be great. Can we stream that? That is gonna be awesome. I can't wait to hear from them. That's gonna be great. Look, the vibes are good in Toronto. The vibes are great in Toronto. Let's let's be a part of that. Let's be like positive about it. I promise you, I did not just have Prozac. I'm not drunk. I'm just telling y'all, like, I mean, this shit, it has like a really weird, just as a final sort of bit on this, I have seen so many players that check their DMs, they check in their mentions all the time. They're checking their mentions. It's crazy. So this is unfortunately the truth about social media in 2022, 2023, 2024, since it's become this popular and this pervasive. And these young athletes, they're coming into a world where they're managing their own PR. You understand? This is not good psychologically. If I had a young athlete that was on my roster, if it was a young athlete that I was training, I'd be like, the first thing we're doing with your first paycheck is we're literally getting you off social media. We're going to have somebody else manage your phone for you. You don't get to go on social media during the season. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I would just literally cut it out because it's not good for you. It's mentally terrible for you. And when you're an athlete and and yes, I realize that I just told y'all to say welcome to Uri Shamshe. What I'm not telling you is to tell him to, that we shouldn't have picked him, or, you're going to be a bust, or do you even know how to play basketball, or any of that shit. And I hope he won't start doing that when he goes 0 for 5 or 0 for 3 or makes a really embarrassing play or gets dunked on or whatever. Young people need support. I really believe this. I believed this when I became a tutor, in college, to help kids with math, because I felt math was being undertaught or poorly taught in high school level. I'm trying to be a better teacher. Honestly, this is like the whole thing of this year. And we as human beings are quite poor at teaching, in my opinion. Like, we often teach when we're tired, we teach when we're hungry, we teach when we're upset, we teach when we're frustrated. Try to teach from a place of empathy, and again, have the presence of mind to say, Uri Shamshe was born in 2004. If you are as old as I am or older, try to think about where you were in 2004. Think about it. Like, just think about it. This kid is so far away from home. So this pouring of support, this idea of like, oh, they got me, I matter. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of professional athletes have talked about this, like, where they're the end of bench guys, and they're not even. Oh, sorry. Is it 2005? I apologize. He's born in 2005. Yes, mathematically that makes sense because he's yes 18. That makes sense. 2005, almost 2006. He was born almost. Okay, put it into perspective. He was born almost when Bargnani was drafted. That's crazy, right? And he's so far away from Cameroon, and he's worked so hard to get here. And yes, he is super raw, and he's going to take a long time. But a lot of supportive, good luck, whatever. You don't know. You don't know how it gets people through the day. I literally like tweet out to or mention Christian Coloco and Jeff Doughton. Those are the guys that I actually like have mentioned all the time, because those are the guys that I felt like they needed it. Like Jeff, and look, like, we had this story last year, did we not? We had the story last year where Jeff's trainer came on, and he was like, he appreciates all the support, he sees all the support, he sends me your posts, whatever. So again, like, this is good, it's positive, right? And of course, unfortunately, on the other side of it, Fred VanVleet's family was also sending him my videos, so that's not good. Maybe that's not so good for Fred VanVleet, and maybe that pushed him out a little bit. Maybe that made him a little bit sour and salty towards us and our community and the Raptors fan base or whatever. But again, and there was another example where Scotty Barnes, if y'all remember, it was the game before Christmas, and he was having a really tough season, And there was that entire Doug Smith article about, him not whatever. And so I think the reporter, I think it was Kayla Gray, said to him like, is anyone sending you a turkey? And he had this really cagey response to it, which was like, nah, I don't trust anyone sending me nothing, right now. And it was just like, to me, it's like, yo, does this guy feel attacked in his city? He's 20 years old. He's from West Palm Beach, 21 years old. He's working his ass off. He's having a tough season and he's getting attacked on social every single night. I don't appreciate doing that to a 21 or 22-year-old. You want to do that to a grown ass man like Fred VanVleet, who's 30 years old, and you want to be like a little bit boisterous, voice your opinions about something really bad someone is doing on purpose. That's fine to me. I don't really give a shit. But when a guy goes for a struggle or he's raw or he's I don't know, that to me just, and especially when he's super young, that to me feels like child abuse. So that was sad, bro. You remember that, right? Like I remember it too. So, Scotty went through a lot that year and, I'm really happy that his community was able to always, always support him. And it helped. It helped. I promise you it helped, to see that every Doug Smith article, if he went and looked at it, had like 50 people saying, fuck you. We don't agree with this. We back Scotty. That feels good. That feels good. And you want to be known as a fan base that's not stupid, that's not going to just fall for everything. But I also think you don't want to be known as a fan base that chases your players out and kicks your players when they're down. I think you want to be known as a fan base that really is like, this is what these guys say. They say Canada strong. That's why I was like, yo, we need to vote Scotty into All-Star. What kind of country are we that as a country of nearly 40 million, we can't get this guy into the All-Star game? And we failed. But then Adam Silver was like, we will put him into the All-Star game. But that's why it matters so much. It matters. It matters because if you want great athletes to come here, you need to show the athlete experience. And the athlete experience could start with 250 little comments saying, welcome to Toronto, Uri Shamshay, or welcome to Toronto, Jonathan Mobile. Do it. All right. Just do me a favor and just do that. And to anyone who says, I don't know how to find Uri Shamshay on Instagram, hold on. Here it is. That double underscore Urish Shamshay underscore Shamshay. So Urish underscore Shamshay. There you go. All right, that's Instagram. Dat Canadian saying, I just checked it. It was our 10th season in the NBA as a franchise when Shamshay was born, and look how far we've grown as a franchise. Thank you for that trivia. That is incredible. That's crazy. All right, make sure to hit like on this video on the way out, and I promise we will return to more profound basketball content soon. We want to take a little bit of a departure and just have a bit of a social hang and answer some questions and talk, and we will return. But I'm looking forward to Summer League a lot. I'm really looking forward to I've been following Uri since he was 6. Well, Masai, I've been following him since he was 1, so you're late on that too. All right, peace.